Today we have Von Galt. Did I say that right?
Yes.
Oh, nice. So today she's going to be telling us about what's coming through her QHHT sessions. So it seems like she has a little bit of everything that's coming through: Ascension, New Earth, past lives, UFOs, and so on. And then she's going to talk about her book as well, The Buddha's Guide to Manifest Parallel Realities. And then after that, anything that she wants to share with us.
Yeah.
So, all right, take it away. Tell us about how did you get into QHHT?
Yeah. So I'm actually aside from doing QHHT and being a practitioner, I work in IT. I'm an IT professional, and I'm just a normal working mom. And on the side, I also write books. And what brought me into QHHT was the material that Dolores canon was covering, such as reincarnation, ascension, awakening, soul groups. All the things that she was covering was very familiar to me because I grew up, I'm Laotian, and I was raised in the Buddhist tradition, Tibetan Buddhism. And so a lot of these concepts, like the wheel of Dharma, the Toku children, etc., those are very, very common concepts. Awakening is a very common concept in Asia. And so I'm very familiar with this space. And so I read all of Dolores' books. I just loved the material that was coming through. It just tickled the child in me. And so I became a practitioner, and I do QHHT out of my seaside home here in Seattle, Washington. And the materials that come through my clients are so rich and fascinating that I, as a book writer, am composing the material to put into books that I'm working on and will be published as well.
You're still writing the QHHT book, correct? Or the information that you're getting? You still writing the book?
So, right. So all my
So in the future, we'll do this again.
Of course, of course. So, when the book is ready to write, it will write itself. When the material is done, being gathered, it will write itself. I get into a book writing frenzy, and I will, like my Buddhist Guide to Manifest Parallel Realities, I wrote that in a month.
Oh,
Okay.
wow.
And that's including putting it together. So when the book is ready to write, it will write. When the art is ready to come through, the artist will produce it. So like John Steinbeck, The Grapes of Wrath, that was written in a week and a half. But he spent a good amount of time living amongst the people to see their plight and to see what was going on. And then when the material was ready, it came out. So that material that Dolores Cannon brought out in her sessions and in her books just fascinated me. And so I decided as a book writer as well to do these sessions and see what material comes through. And the material that comes through, I usually fact check afterwards for my clients so that I can write them their summaries and give it to them along with their sessions recordings. And when I go and fact check a lot of the materials, many times the dates, the people's names, the environment, all that is substantiated. Even the scientific information is very, very close to true. So that's fascinating in and of itself. But for the most part, the type of clients that I typically get are very left brain. And I think the reason why they are attracted to me is because, again, I'm an IT professional here in Seattle. I'm a writer, and they recognize that because here in Seattle, we're very techy. There's a lot of programmers, a lot of video game makers, a lot of internet marketers. Of course, there's a lot of research in consciousness done here too in the academic fields. So these people typically are normal people, and they would just find me through the different ways to find me and book a session. And they really just they have a couple questions about nuances that go on in their life, maybe some things that are a little metaphysical that they want to get more information on. But for the most part, they've gone through their awakening, or they're going through their awakening. They've gone through the dark night of the soul, or they're going through their dark night of the soul episode. And they just want to know, how can I bring this material into my life, and be a better engineer, be a better video programmer, be a better music producer, be a better doctor, etc.
Wow.
And
That's
so they
interesting.
just, yeah, and that's all they really want. They don't want to be a celebrity. They don't want to, do a travel circuit about the different things that they are interested in, the fringe science. They don't want that. They just want to live their normal everyday life, and they just want to be a better person in the version that they are working
Good.
on.
That's good. That
And
makes me
so,
feel
yeah,
better.
and so my QHHT sessions, what it typically does is it brings clarity to the challenges that they're working on. Just looking at the lessons or the things that they've been working on in this lifetime and in previous lifetimes. It gives them clarity, it gives them direction, and it even provides them suggestions on how to improve their current incarnation. Because, everybody wants to live their best life. And
Yeah.
this is QHHT kind of provides a cheat sheet to a lot of people. And it saves them a lot of money in counseling and doctors. So, yeah.
It sounds like they kind of want these sessions to become a better person, from what it sounds like.
Yes,
Maybe
yes.
answer maybe a few unexplained situations, maybe, from what it
Yep,
sounds like.
yep, yep.
That's good. So they want to become better and then maybe contribute something more to humanity, kind of.
Exactly. And by being like, because everybody they have a purpose, and they have a job to do, and whether it's being the best mom and raising higher frequency children, or being the best doctor and infusing that higher energy into your practice, and getting customers to practice more meditation, wellness, kind of organic living, if that's the purpose that they came in to do. If they are a video programmer and they wanting to get some creative ideas on ancient archaeology, maybe some metaphysical concepts that they're working on for their video game programming, they want some insight, some inspiration, and maybe some clarity on some of the topics that they're working on, infusing into their career. And so these are the type of clients that I typically get here in Seattle, and this is the type of material that the sessions that I facilitate typically give them. And by being the best version of yourself, you are raising your own energetic frequency, and as a result, you can't help but improve the energy of everybody else around you. Some people, you just love to be around them because they just like that dog that you got there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like some people, you just feel the energy, and you're like, oh, I just love being around them, and I'm always so creative, and I do my best work around them. And all these people, if they're the best version of themselves, they're infectious, and everybody around them is infectious, and their companies,
Right.
prosper, their business prosper, their families prosper. There's no coincidence that these type of people are usually around highly influential people.
Right. And it's interesting that they are having sessions as well to explore like ancient information, ancient ruins, or ancient, because that's kind of like some of the reasons why I got into QHHT, because the rabbit hole to explore more information about Atlantis led me to Dolores Cannon.
Yeah, it's actually funny that you say that, because I, being Laotian, there's a lot of folklore about Lemuria.
Yes.
In Asia, and
I just did a video about that a couple weeks ago of Lemuria. So we did a video collaboration. So
yeah, that's a whole nother topic. I being Laotian, we have so much folklore about Lemuria, and a lot of that shamanism and mysticism also filters into Buddhism. And one of the oldest form of Buddhism is Tibetan Buddhism, because obviously after the mega flood about 13,000 years ago, that kind of wiped out ancient civilizations like Lemuria,
Mm-hmm.
the people who survived were up in the mountains, and they were in places like Tibet. So, how the folklore goes is over time, as the water receded, people started going down into the valleys of Asia and other parts. And, because they lost so much of their civilization, people became illiterate, they became tribal, and they really just started all over again. But some remnants of the metaphysical knowledge that are infused in their everyday life, in medicine and science and entertainment, etc., from Lemuria, stayed, and they just cropped up from passing story to their children in like Buddhism.
Mm-hmm.
So, or in Hinduism, or other Eastern philosophies, which is all very, very metaphysical. And so, the folklore in Laos is just very, very rich in this type of content, and it's also documented in the art in the Buddhist monasteries as well. So, like my family, being Laotian, my mother is a very, very active participant in supporting the build of a lot of monasteries in Laos. And I've gone and visited some, and a lot of the artwork is much the same, because the people are a little tribal. They haven't quite gotten modern quite yet, and they're working on it. But over the centuries, because most of the population are illiterate, how they pass their knowledge is through art. And the Buddhist monasteries are the recreation centers for the community. That's where the community goes for resources, for free education and different things.
Mm.
And so all that information is stored in the art. And for someone like myself, who's highly literate, I know what these artwork depicts. And a lot of it, again, is like the wheel of Dharma, about reincarnating into the same soul group, working on the challenges, trying to raise your frequency. A lot of it has a little bit of symbolism into different types of incarnations, like mermaids and fairies and dragons. It's very, very common in Asia, and depicted in the Buddhist artwork, and a lot of mega flood artwork about the worldwide flood that took out advanced ancient civilizations. They're all in there. Not new.
Interesting. You said the flood was 13,000 years ago.
Yeah.
They push this culture, they push it around like 5,000, 6,000 years ago. But that's interesting. You say 13,000 because that lines up with Atlantis, the huge flood during that time. So, another thing is dragons. We were just talking about dragons a week ago. So, yeah.
Yeah, and actually, people are not aware of this, but because I live here in Seattle and I love to travel and see local places, do we have a canyon called Palouse Falls in Eastern Washington, and it's this huge, and you really can't see it. It looks like the Grand Canyon, but you can go to YouTube and look at Palouse Falls, and you can look at the crater, and there's a lot of geological evidence because there's a lot of scientists and geologists who live in this area. But the evidence from the mega flood, which is around 13,000 years ago, happened to be, went all the way from, I think, Montana all the way to Washington, and it just carved out this huge area all across the states. That's how big the flood is. And there's also geological evidence, and I actually found this out in a session as well, and I looked it up, and I was like, wow, this is fascinating. But in Greenland, there's evidence of a crater like this,
right?
That could have been an asteroid that came down and boom, and then started the flood and whoosh, took out half of America. And if you think about the impact of how huge that geological event is, it falls right in line with a lot of the Buddhist folklore in Laos and in other places about the big flood that hit the world and took out these ancient advanced civilizations, like the Brahmin civilization of India, and just so much of the artwork in the Buddhist temples have very, very galactic images, have images of, flying vehicles and, a lot of the Star Trek kind of stuff, but in kind of ancient design
Right.
are depicted. And so the story
Where's
is,
this at in China? Is that where this is
well,
at?
no, it's in all Buddhist temples. Go to one, you'll see it's all the same artwork.
Okay, even in America.
Even in America, you don't have to go to Asia.
God.
Um, you can go to Laos and visit my mom's temples. They're wonderful. We put really great artwork into it, and make sure that the best artists are depicting the folklore that's being passed on from generation to generation. But yeah, so a lot of the artwork is basically humanity had these huge empires who had this very advanced civilization, who was very galactic, and then the flood came through and destroyed it all. And we started all over again.
Yes.
And this is the content that's coming through my QHHT sessions.
So what's coming through, like what kind of information are you getting through the sessions?
Oh, it just kind of runs the gamut, but the same message is always the same.
Okay.
You have a life to live, okay? You have a purpose. And your challenge is to live the best version of you possible, and in whatever ticket or life that you have, your challenge is to overcome your obstacles and live the best version and live the highest frequency that you can. And by being the best version of you, you are raising your own frequency and your own consciousness, and you are also raising the frequency of everybody else. And so if everybody all across the world focus on being the best engineer, the best doctor, the best teacher, and being open-minded to incorporating metaphysics into their practice somehow, the whole world will light up, and we'll have a planet of enlightened beings that raise radiate at a very, very high frequency. So if you want to get into the QHHT stuff, what you would call the New Earth.
Okay. Is that what they're calling it in your sessions, the New Earth, or are they calling it anything else?
Some people call it the New Earth. Some people just call it
Ascension.
Ascension.
Okay.
These terms are, kind of Western terms. In Asia, we call awakening is very common.
That was my next question.
Yeah. Highly enlightened children are called the Toku children in Buddhism. And these are very, very old souls that came here with information about metaphysics or, certain philosophies in Tibetan Buddhism to infuse that information into society and raise the frequency of everybody else, kind of help them out. These are very, very, ancient topics that have found a new calling in Western society. And I just love it that Dolores, tapped into this and brought it out, and now it's, just even more relevant. So Absolutely. It used to be just kind of something that some people knew in monasteries.
What are they saying about the New Earth or Ascension in your sessions? Anything particular, any information that's coming through that's of interest that they're talking about?
For the most part, for the most part, I try to answer all questions that my clients have so that they don't leave with any unanswered questions. And many of them have questions, covering religion. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that keep coming up is, your religion is just another piece of your story. It's just like your race, your gender, your culture, etc. All these different elements that make you who you are just another piece of your incarnation. And your challenge is to rise above those obstacles and be the best version you can, and also be open-minded and integrate with everybody else. Because if everybody came in with the same background, we really wouldn't infuse change.
Mm-hmm.
But from my sessions, because everybody comes into a different incarnation and has a different set of parameters for their life, if they integrate their knowledge and be the best at who they are, and they integrate with other people, and kind of work with other people and be more open-minded and inclusive, we would have people all over the world in all different walks of life, all connecting and living at a higher frequency. But because the people of Earth have gotten so caught up in their own stories, and just continue to repeat the same habits over and over again, they're doing the same fights that they've been having for eons.
Right.
So, like I said, people, I really recommend a lot of people to find a practitioner through Dolores' website in their area and go get a session, because it is a cheat code so that you stop doing the same things over and over again and really spinning your wheels. You can just kind of just cut right through the BS. It goes right to the best part of your life, which is, to find your purpose in your career, be the best that you are, and, invoke change. So that's really the overall message I keep getting over and over again. Yeah.
Anybody in your sessions having past lives on other planets?
Of course. I had a session where, it's actually quite recent. It was a healthcare practitioner.
Mm-hmm.
And she had a couple lifetimes as a human. And, she had the same soul group. And her challenge was really to kind of rise above stereotypes and rise above the family dynamics that she was working with. Mm-hmm. But then beyond that, she was a creator being, creating land masses in another reality. And the planets that she was working on creating was not ready to be seeded with humans yet, but it was being seeded with rocks and trees, and all those have consciousness as well. And then she went to another life where she was a spirit being, and she traveled around to the different universes and went to the Pleiadian galaxy. And when she went to the Pleiadian galaxy, she uncovered that they were having a mission to incarnate as human beings to help raise the frequency of Earth, which is the same mission that many people, when they do these sessions, find that they have had previous lifetimes, not only as Earthlings in different timelines, but also as elementals, as, what we call aliens, or basically a different version of life in another planet or universe. And many of them, again, are incarnating here to help raise the frequency, help live the best version that they can, so that they can invoke change and change the energy of Earth to something more positive. So yeah, that's what I keep getting over and over again. So
interesting. Yeah, it's pretty cool to when they have like another life on another planet, and it's you don't think about it until it starts coming through, and it's like, wow, how it all comes together and all the pieces and everything. Because I have one client, she had a past life on Maldek, before it got destroyed, and another client, she was an energy being out there in the universe. So she's like, I don't have a body. No body. I'm energy. I was like, oh, okay.
I've had clients in their sessions, they were spirit guides. They were spirit guides, or and they had different types of jobs in the spirit world, and they also chose to come to Earth and have an Earth incarnation to help raise the frequency of the people of Earth. And so one of the things that always comes up in my sessions, and again, remember, all this material I'm putting into my book because I'm a book writer, really, but all really good artists find different ways in which to get material. So QHHT, I really recommend, is a really good way for all artists to get into, because you're going to find a wealth of inspiration. It never ends. So
how many books did you read of Dolores Cannon?
I read about 15 or so.
Oh, wow. Yeah,
I
you
read a
passed.
lot. I'm a big reader, so I love it. I love that stuff. But so, anyways, but one of the things, like I said, the thing that keeps coming up over and over again for me, is that, you know, visiting the Akasha records, or being an elemental, or having a previous lifetime as a Pleiadian or a Turian, or dragon, or whatever the deal is. um, the point is the same.
Mhm.
That's the magic. That's the magic that appeals to the child in us. That's the stuff that, you know, entertains us and kind of tickles our imagination, because, you know, the universe is so creative, that we just go into wonder. So that's the stuff that we all like. But the real stuff that is the whole purpose of this whole thing, is the awakening. The real work for when you go beyond the child and the magic that is attractive about this work, the real stuff is, raising your vibration. It is, dealing with your inner demons. It is, doing the self-help work. It is working on your communication with the people that challenge you in your life. It's working on those things. So as much as the other stuff is entertaining, and
Mhm.
it is, um, when you get down to brass and nickels, it's really about awakening and living your best self. And
Nice.
that's really the only way you're going to raise your frequency.
Absolutely. And from your point of view, how can you explain the awakening in your words? What do you think the awakening is? Some people think it's more of a political thing, religious thing, or we're not alone in the universe awakening. In your opinion, would you explain it?
Okay, so I'll tell you how awakening is, how I get it from my Buddhist background.
That's perfect.
Okay, the Tibetan Buddhist background. An awakening is someone who has come to the realization, like Buddha, that we live in a holographic reality that is responding to the commands of its user. That's it.
Done.
That's it. So what you send out, you get back. What you create, you work on. What comes to you is a reflection of who you are inside. Work on yourself. Work on those issues that you have to work on, because they are not going to go away. You can be all about, love and positivity, and avoid things that you have to work on in your life, and they're just going to grow, and then they're going to blow up. And then you have the dark night of the soul, where your life has just gone out of control, and you're wondering, how did it get this bad? Well, because you've been escaping.
Mm,
Okay, so if you're an awakened being, you should be abundant in all areas of your life, and all areas of your life should be have a balance, and it should, be enjoyable, and it should be, it should, like your soul, in essence, the only thing that's real is your soul. So your soul energy is not going to be satisfied with a cheeseburger. Okay, it's not going to be satisfied with a cheeseburger. It's not going to be
right.
satisfied with the biggest house, the biggest car, or how popular you are at work, or all this. What it is looking for is growth. So when you, create something that makes people happy, you're happy, because the
Mm,
only thing that really is real is that you created and your own expression of love, that people resonate, and it brings them happiness. So what you're trading is, you're trading love energy. Okay, so those video games that kids just really really love to play all the time and just can't get enough of, um that's the energy that they keep going back for. It's like an addiction. People are addicted to love. We're gluttons. So that's really what it all what all of his expression is. So yeah.
Interesting. Interesting. How much material do you have so far for the book that you're writing now?
I have quite a bit of material. I've been working on it throughout the years. I have young children, so I have to kind of toggle. I'm a normal working mom, so I have to toggle between my work and then also my family responsibilities. But I do get
Oh, yeah.
sessions and I record it, and but I get so much different material for so much different areas. And so for me, my challenge is to organize the material that I get into a theme.
Yes.
Yes, and then like I said, when the book is ready to be written, when you have enough, it will be written.
Oh yeah. What's some of the stuff that you're getting that's pretty exciting? Like, wow, that was interesting. That was mind opening.
The science stuff is my favorite
Oh,
because I can fact check the science material and see that, wow, that's pretty close. Like I had a client who went through a wormhole and tried to make a sound. And the client made the sound of a humming sound and then some chirping sound.
okay.
Okay, so I'm like, okay, that's interesting. After the session, for the summary to send to the clients, I went and looked up some videos on black holes from science. And they actually, I think quite recently, I think it was this year or in the last year and a half, they got some material where they actually recorded two small black holes crashing at each other, and it sounds like a chirping sound.
Really?
Sounds like a humming and a chirping sound. Okay, I'm not a scientist, so I'm like, wow, that's really good. So
That's interesting.
yeah, so that stuff just makes me really happy because I love to hear that kind of stuff, because then I know that a lot of material is actually pretty quite accurate. But aside from that, it's really about just kind of the healing and the insight that the clients get, because that's really, when they see what they've been doing and how they could do it different and better, and it's like a light bulb turn on in their life, and all of a sudden they're ready to go. That's really where the healing is. And there's also physical healings too, but it's the emotional healing. It's the healing of the child trauma that has plagued them for 60 years or 50 years, whatever the case is. So
Okay. Before we go on to the next question, earlier you brought up a good point that I would like for you to share. You're talking about the left brain and the right brain and how the two should come together. Can you explain that for the audience?
yes. So a lot of the QHHT clients that I get, many of them, and I think it's just because where I live in Seattle, Washington. So like I said, there's a lot of tech people here, a lot of research and academics living in the area. And it's just bustling metropolis that's just continuing to grow. And so a lot more of these types of clients are coming through. And what happens is a lot of them, they are also very artistic in some way. And then also, they're also very, very left brain into their careers. And so the challenge for them oftentimes when they come to me is, how do I fuse the two? How do I be the doctor, be the best version of the doctor, but at the same time entertain my interest in energy healing?
Sounds like me.
Yeah. So the oversoul will give them recommendations of kind of how to do it, and what they want. The oversoul typically, or whatever comes through, whether it's the guides, sometimes past family relatives will come through to kind of give them information that's relevant to them, kind of give them direction. But typically what happens is they won't tell them how to do something or what to do, because that's for them to choose, but they will give them some suggestions and some ways to go, like, go further into working with people. That's where you're going to find the most happiness, or go further into working with animals because you're really good at that. But they won't tell you what to do or how to do it. That's your journey to decide. Right. So yeah, so I get a lot of that, and that's really where most of the kind of the confusion that many of my clients come from, is kind of how to bridge the two interests. and still be able to have a normal lifestyle where they can provide for their families and have their vacations, and just have a balance in their lives.
Right. Absolutely. And then by them having the balance is when they merge the two brains together, the left and right.
Yeah, they find new interests. They find that oh, I can still do video games, but then I just need to like introduce some metaphysical ideas, or maybe some metaphysical characters, or maybe a storyboard that kind of touches into ancient archaeology, things that I love, and they can infuse that into their work. And now the right brain and the left brain are connected, and they're happy.
I do remember, I don't know which book it was, but I do remember a section in the book where it said that, the upgrading of the frequencies, updating the lifestyles of the left and right brain coming together, it's going to be in everything: music, art, these books, this movie. And it's like, that's the part of the, I guess you could say, ascension as well, because all that is getting upgraded in the frequency.
Right. And I think what people and what I'm coming through in my private hypnosis practice is people need to understand, what is your definition of what this reality is going to look like?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What does it look like in medicine? What does it look like in science? What does it look like in in just basically the type of houses we live in? What does this reality look like to you? And oftentimes we're living in houses that are more eco-friendly. The materials that we use are much more clean and recyclable. The energy or the medicine that we're using is more holistic. It's more preventative. It's more energy healing type of modalities. The science is more quantum physics. The technology infuses a little bit more of collaboration from different people. It's a little bit more metaphysical, like holograms, those kind of stuff. So this is what it looks like. Okay. And so if everybody just works on being the best incarnation they can be, they will manifest that reality, because it's getting infused and become part of the mainstream.
Interesting.
Oh my goodness. Oh, and then the other thing is, because I get a lot of artists as well.
What kind of art? Like paintings or?
Musicians, and my husband's a musician too. So
okay.
I get a lot of artists because of that. But musicians, painters, artists, different things. A lot of programmers and IT people are usually very, very artistic as well. And they infuse it into their work.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So actually Google Talks, Facebook, like I said, Google Talks, Facebook Talks, TEDx Talks, a lot of the topics are very metaphysical in nature. They're working to try to infuse and, sync that right and left together. But for artists, the really great thing is a lot of artists are really tired. And I think people are tired of the same old stories. They're tired of the war and exploitation stories, and people, especially as they are coming into realizing that they've had previous lives in Earth and maybe even beyond Earth, they're ready for a new level of consciousness. They're ready for new material. They're ready to watch movies and read books and play video games and different things that kind of go into these different areas. So I'll give you some examples in real life, because it's all about application, and a lot of my clients are about application. Netflix, for example, okay, really kind of blew the TV bubble and TV stations and just kind of blew open the gates, okay? And they're constantly looking for new materials from different screenwriters all over the place. And a lot of this material is coming through Alibaba or AliExpress in China. The richest man in China, and he had a great backstory as well. But anyways, he's getting you to film as well. And a lot of these type of new online channels are looking for materials, and they're looking for metaphysical content because that's what the people who are watching this are looking for. So I'll give you some examples of metaphysical type of movies and content that screenwriters and artists can kind of, dig into. So Netflix, they have a really popular series called the OA. Okay, it's about reincarnation, ascension, awakening, time travel to different parallel realities, all the stuff. There's a really great movie called Yesterday. It was about Mandela effect. And the guy that kind of like woke up into reality, and he's like, "What do you mean nobody's heard of the Beatles?" And he plays all the songs except for a couple people from the.
Oh no!
It's great, and I love my husband is a music buff, so we just like had a great time with Yesterday. Obviously all the Star Trek series, Gene Roddenberry, he was so great and pioneer in bringing all of this content into entertainment. And then, goodness, the list goes on. I mean, just look around you. All these metaphysical topics are going into entertainment, and if you're an artist, this is a great wealth of information to pull out.
Oh yeah,
and write stuff, because people they want to know about the time travel. They want to know about the parallel realities. They want to know about what it's like to live in different planets, like Avatar. Channel material. And kids love that. Oh, and even children's material. Oh my goodness, children's material is just kind of blown out as well. I watch a lot of movies with my daughter.
Hearing something about like they were getting more into like metaphysical kind of topics, and I was like, oh, okay. I forgot where. I think it was on one of those Facebook groups. So
yeah,
about it.
Yeah,
oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, I just watched. My daughter, she loves all the princesses, and so she watched a movie on Cinderella, and it was made a couple of years ago, but it was a follow-up to Cinderella, where the evil stepmother did not like the outcome, and she went back into time. She went back into time. She changed it so that Cinderella did not get her slipper and meet the prince. She locked her up and had the prince meet her daughter instead. This is all cartoon. Met her daughter, and then her daughter is like, I don't really feel like this is my life. And then the daughter started doing some metaphysical things and realizing that this wasn't her life. And then she went back into time and fixed it so that everybody, gets what they want. And of course she met somebody else who was more her liking anyways than Prince Charming. But what's all that? What are cartoons doing about time travel, parallel realities, changing soul groups? What is that kind of content?
I think even Spider-Man had a different reality.
Oh yeah. All the sci-fi action Spider-Man, I mean, it's just the list goes on and on and on. And this is in mainstream, and it just needs to just come more into all aspects and facets of our lives and our careers. Because, to be honest with you, we are ready for a higher level of consciousness and to live a reality that is a higher frequency. And the higher frequency reality has a lot of really good entertainment. And it has a lot of really good stuff that was never thought of before. So if we just start bringing it into the fold and into our careers and the things that we do, we're going to create new ways to address old issues. And just, all of a sudden, things that you never thought of before will just come forward, and it's going to be every day. So that's really the message I keep getting for all my sessions. So
perfect. Before we go any further, if you ever come across any information from your clients that deals with Lemuria or Atlantis, let me know, and we'll have another video on the other channel, on the other YouTube channel.
Yeah, I can tell you the folklores from Laos about Lemuria and the Buddhist folklores, which I've already kind of discussed. But in terms of my clients, again, some of them have had those lifetimes, and the reason why they have had those visions is just to know that they did exist prior. They've had multiple lifetimes, and to just kind of learn from those previous experiences. So.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Now moving forward, since you have a lot of people that are like IT people that are visiting you, you know, doctors and so on, has any of them have sessions and any type of technology topics have been brought up, like new technologies or
Mm-hmm.
new equipment coming out that they're working on? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And let me remind you, Bartolomeo Cristofori, I think his name was, the man that invented the piano. He had his awakening and then had a dream about playing musical notes on chops. And then he was obsessed with trying to make that equipment. And now we have the piano.
Mm,
If he never had his awakening and never infused it into his career, what kind of music will we still be playing?
that's a good question. That's a good question.
Bucky too, Buckminster Fuller, same exact thing. Had his awakening in his 30s and then became obsessed about sacred geometry and the sacred geometry in Metatron's cube. It was the foundation that inspired his icosahedron platonic solid architecture design, the dome that everybody is so fascinated with. And it is a very, very strong form in building houses. And that's why he did it. But the thing is that he was always metaphysical, and he brought it into his career. And so now his career took off, and he still does the things that he loves, is building architecture, but he infused his awakening, he infused the material that he learned from metaphysics into his career, and we've been better with it. And that's what everyone needs to do. And there's so many examples of this all over the place. It's happening all the time, and we just need to, come to terms with metaphysics and, make it a part of our careers and our everyday life. Really.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And the great thing about Bucky Fuller, I just want to say too, because I love Bucky, and Chuck Pettis here in Seattle, who is one of the city engineers who mapped out all the ley lines based on dowsing rods in Seattle and created, and created kind of the Seattle engineering around ley lines, but he studied with Bucky Fuller, and they're really into sacred geometry. And sacred geometry, it's every single person, and this is what Bucky found as well, every single person has an independent song inside. And what they found in semantic research is that when you play certain frequencies into a sand plate or a tonoscope, it forms a 2D sacred geometric mandala. And in 3D, if you take that sand plate design and put it in 3D, it's sacred geometry. So every single person has their own internal song. And if you play it in a tonoscope, everybody has their own Merkaba. They have their own sacred geometric shape.
Nice.
That's the wonderful contribution that Bucky brought forth in Bucky Balls. Yeah.
Interesting. Was he one of your clients by any chance?
Chuck Pettis? No, I visited his earth sanctuary. He has a 75-acre sanctuary with Stonehenge type of monoliths around the sanctuary, and also other type of monolithic structures from different, ancient tribal cultures around the world in this sanctuary. And it's a beautiful sanctuary here in the island, actually not far from where I live, about a ferry ride away on Whidbey Island. And people will go there and they'll walk around and just meditate and just kind of take in all of the architecture and all of the sculptures. But yeah, he would, in his early planning days, he was part of designing Seattle. And the basic background in Seattle is in 1987, a bunch of city engineers said, we want to design Seattle so that it attracts high energy peoples and energy. We want our city to prosper. And so what they did was, being metaphysical and infusing the metaphysical knowledge into their careers as city planners, is they took dowsing rods and went around Seattle trying to figure out where,
Hmm.
the sacred ley lines are. And when you're designing sacred space, there's always water that goes underneath it. So Seattle being practically above the Puget Sound waters, there's
Uh-huh.
already that. So they mapped out all the ley lines, and then they put these kind of Stonehenge type of structures all on these points in the ley lines. It actually looks like your chakras. So there's all of these Stonehenge type of artwork around Seattle, and then they connected it to Portland, and they connected it to San Francisco, and the whole intention was to increase the frequency of the West Coast to attract higher frequency energy.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it worked or not, but we're pretty darn technological.
Yeah, doing big things out there.
Yeah.
If you want, we could start talking about your book. I'm going to share it so everybody can see the book. Now, how did you start? Let me just make sure that you can see it. Can you see it?
Yeah.
Okay. So what made you, and I'm going to leave a link in the description for the book as well to make it easier for everybody. What made you get into the book and creating this?
Right. So, like I said, I'm Buddhist.
Mm-hmm.
I have been raised in it, so I've had like 40 plus years of Buddhism and knowledge. And one of the things, the basic principles of Buddhism, no matter the form, is Buddha's foundings of the Four Noble Truths and Eightfold Path. Okay, that's the basic
Mm-hmm.
of the philosophy in the Buddhist spiritual tradition. And what the book goes over is kind of demystifying and explaining the Four Noble Truths and Eightfold Paths of Buddhism, and how you apply it in your everyday practice in your life. And through applying these principles, you actually raise your energetic frequency and manifest a parallel reality that is in line with what you are radiating at. So Buddha talked a lot about parallel realities and about self-help work, and working on addressing your own personal issues. And by doing that awakening inner work on yourself, you actually change your outer reality into one that is more fitting with kind of what you radiate at. So I basically explain a lot of that in this book. It's a very quick, easy read. I think it's only maybe about 130 pages, so it's nice, easy read,
Mm-hmm.
and it's very, very easy to understand, and it kind of breaks up a lot of the confusion that people have in the West about what Buddhism is, and what the philosophy is, and how does it change your reality. So and I would say I know a lot of Buddhists that still work on these principles over and over and over again, to try to change their outer reality. So, and again, it all begins on the inner side, because when you change your inner self and you have your own awakening, you address your dark night of the soul, you address the issues that you have been avoiding, and you work on them.
Mm-hmm.
You not only change yourself, but you change your frequency, and according to Buddhist philosophy, you change the reality that you experience, because then you manifest a different reality that is in line with what you're radiating at. So in Western terms, the expression of that you have done is what they call the Mandela effect. You've changed your history, and now you're experiencing a new reality.
Mm.
And it all begins with that inner work.
Yep, absolutely.
That's how you raise your frequency. And that's how you change your reality, the hologram.
Nice. Yes, it seems like it'd be pretty interesting. Now, is this more for information purposes, or is this for like healing your inner self, healing or is this more like to expand your consciousness kind of thing?
All the above.
Okay.
So all the above. Like I said, it basically breaks down the basic principles of the spiritual tradition of Buddhism. It breaks down what is the Four Noble Truths and
Mm-hmm.
what is the Eightfold Path that addresses the Four Noble Truths. And then I give some examples, real life examples of how you can apply it in your life. And by doing this, and there's a lot of spiritual traditions that do this, Native American, Celtic, a lot of different ones. And they even do this, they try to do this in religions as well. So, you pick your medicine, whatever works for you. But for this spiritual tradition that I'm raised in and I'm familiar with, this is how you do it in Asia. This is how you do your awakening. This is how you change your reality. So, yeah.
Interesting. Nice.
It's very entertaining. I've had people read it and they go, "Oh, I didn't know that about Buddhism. I thought Buddhism was some weird New Age thing." I had somebody who met me 8 years ago, and I get an 8-page letter of trying to convert into her religion with a big thick book about New Age spirituality, and obviously she did not pay attention at all into learning about who I am. So it's a very, very old tradition, much older than most of the modern religions.
Yes. What is the Eightfold Path? If you can explain that. What is that?
It's just like correct thought, correct action, and it just kind of goes on to list the different things. So whatever you're working on, are you having the correct thought about it? Are you doing the correct action? Are you making the correct speech about it? So it kind of lists the different ways in which you can address the problem if you go through these 8 principles of evaluating your situation. And the Eightfold Path is really about evaluating the challenge that you're working on in all these different areas. And when you evaluate it and you look at it, you can see where your thought process or your actions kind of strayed away from what could be the best path for you. Yeah. And most people's issues are because they're not addressing their they're not addressing their ego. They're not addressing, they're speaking out of turn or saying something that they shouldn't, or they're acting, in their own interest and not the interest of the situation. So a lot of these issues that many people deal with can be fixed if they just address it properly. So it's very logical.
Interesting. And also, you have a website, so we're gonna pull up your website, and so you could talk about that. And you able to see it?
Yeah.
Perfect. Well, tell us about, this is your website, Merkaba Chakras.
Merkaba Chakras.
Oh, sorry. So if people want to get in touch with you, the best way to get in touch with you would be the phone number.
So you can reach the phone number. I try to get back to everybody and answer their questions as quickly as I can. But the best way, again, is there's other ways. You can just send me an email. You can go to the contact us form.
Right.
And again, in the blog articles, there's a wealth of information on a lot of metaphysical topics that are covered in science, in medicine, and different things. And a lot of these topics I did research on in 2011 to 2012 on Facebook. I tested it out on Facebook, and I put it on my personal Facebook at the time. That was before they had author pages and so forth. So I would put it on my Facebook page, and then people would share it. I would get hundreds and thousands of people sharing it and talking and putting it on their website, putting it on, their material. And a lot of the material that I put in there are factual research from academia.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, because it's been about 7 or 8 years since these posts were originally created on my Facebook timeline, I basically put it in here because Facebook is archiving a lot of the really, really old stuff. So to make sure that the material is still available to people on the internet, they can always find it on the blog page.
Okay, it look like you got a little bit of everything. And
Yeah,
this,
I got a little everything, yeah.
is this just through your research and everything?
Yeah, I did my research, yeah.
What can you tell us about the yin yang symbol? Because someone was talking about this a couple of days ago. What can you share with us?
The yin yang symbol is sacred geometry.
Mm-hmm.
It's Metatron's cube.
Okay. Does it have like a certain meaning?
Yes, Metatron's cube, sacred geometry is basically what everybody is. It's everybody's independent mandala.
Okay. Perfect. Oh yeah, you got a lot of stuff on here.
Yeah, it's so old. It's about 7 or 8 years ago, so I'm not sure if all the links still work, but if some of the links don't work, you can, there's so much information now than there was 8 years ago, so you can find the same information. Many of these people have started their own websites and YouTube channels, etc. So.
Gotcha. Interesting. Yeah, I was looking at your website earlier, and I was like, okay, and I didn't even get to the blog part of it. So
yeah, go ahead and go down the rabbit hole.
Absolutely. Enlightened friendships. Got Nikola Tesla. Lot of interesting stuff on here. All right. And then you got some QHHT topics on here as well. How to schedule an appointment and so on. Perfect. All right. Next thing will be, now, is there anything that you wanted to talk about that we didn't talk about yet? That you wanted to get a certain point across?
Yeah. Basically, the main message. Here's the main message that I get in a lot of my sessions. And it is the same message that I get from my spiritual tradition, Buddhism as well. And the message is really this, and this is a message that the Oversoul really wants everybody to know. You've always been enough. You've always been enough. And the time is now to start manifesting the life of your dreams. And you could do it. And by doing it, you help yourself and you help other people. And this life is about living in joy and being creative about all the resources that you have available to you. And whatever you are in whatever part of the world and in whatever incarnation you have a lot of gifts and resources available to you. So use them to create the life of your dreams. And that's really what the Oversoul wants everybody to know.
Nice. I like it. It's a good message.
Yeah.
A question I forgot to mention. I know we talked about people living other lives on other planets, but has any aliens or UFOs ever came through any of your sessions by any chance?
I have not. I've had people who've had previous incarnations as quote aliens, as Pleiadian or whatever incarnation, if that's what you want, if that's what you call an alien.
Yeah. So what was that like?
It's just like it is here.
No. I mean, like, what was the information about the person that was a Pleiadian?
The information is that they are incarnating as a human being, and they're no special than anybody else. And they have the same struggles and challenges as any other human being. And their job is to live the most enjoyable life and be the best version that they can be. And as doing so, they raise the frequency of Earth.
Gotcha. Nice.
So
very similar.
And you gotta understand, to Pleiadians, humans are aliens.
Yeah, absolutely. For to go over there, yes.
Yeah.
How do you see yourself going forward into the future? Where do you see yourself doing and what you're going to be doing?
Well, I try to, I know everybody has a New Year's resolution, and I try not to limit myself with a New Year's resolution or any kind of resolution, because I really don't know what better, reality, I can manifest for myself. So I try to keep myself open. So, and usually I'm pretty darn surprised with what's around the corners. I'm like, I never thought about that. So I don't want to limit myself. Um, yeah, but I do know there's a couple themes that I work on. I want and I love. So I want to continue to publish books and write books of interest to me. And I am interested in a lot of things. And I work in digital marketing and the IT profession, and I know I want to continue to create content and things out of the IT profession that kind of help people and that's fun. And so, yeah, I'm just open to what the universe has in store for me. So I'm kind of enjoying the ride. Yeah.
Well, if you're writing books, you're gonna have to do more interviews about your books and book tours
Oh
and all that stuff.
yeah. I did a series on coloring books from vacations that my husband and I took. And they are real guides, but the fun way of doing that is like if you get my Barbados vacation guide coloring book, some kid could be coloring it, going, "Mom, I want to go to the animal sanctuary. Go around the corner. It's right over there." It's like, what? Okay, it's there. And then they can go, "Mom, I want to go to ride a horse now. Go down the street." My book says it goes down the street, so they'll be coloring, the coloring book, and yeah, go down the street. So you can have the whole Barbados excursion that my husband and I went on from the coloring books, because they are really true to how it is. And I get people who say, "I got your coloring book for this vacation, and we had a great vacation." And my 6-year-old kid was the guide. So it's fun. It's fun.
That's interesting. That's pretty cool. So you create this coloring book, and then it's kind of like a map of different vacation spots.
Yep. So so if I take a vacation, I'll whatever my inspiration leads me to, I typically will put it in a book. So yeah,
that's cool. Yeah,
when the books are ready to be written, they will be written.
I know. And then you disappear for a couple of months to write it.
Yeah.
Okay. Would you be interested in coming back on?
Of course. Yeah.
Okay. Perfect. All right. Unless there's anything else you would like to share, we can wrap it up. So,
well, thank you so much for bringing me on your show, and it's been a pleasure.
No, thank you. Thank you very much for everything.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right. To everybody, take care till next time.